with the leaves, with the spiders, the birds and the bees, with the mountains, with the sea, with the valleys and roots of the trees, with our passion, with our wounds, with the sun and the earth and the moon, with the living, with the dead, with the stars, with the mother of our mothers who gave birth to it all, from her soul, from her body, from her blood, from the depth of the pain to infinity has a key that brings us to the garden of our ancient wisdom and our natural rhythm. With the light you have hidden, elevate your power like a beautiful flower. Breathe the love that brings us all together. With our ancient wisdom and our natural rhythm, with the light we have given, elevate your power like a beautiful flower. Breathe the love that brings us all together. Hey-ya, hey-ya, hey-ya. Hey-ya, 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 hey-ya.
Welcome. We welcome you with our whole hearts, and we are going to jump right in with a consulting experiment because you are the main event today. So I'm going to share my screen in a moment and ask forgiveness of our unsighted participants. We'll bring you in to what we're viewing in a moment. But for those of you that can see, I'm going to ask you to take in some images and notice what you observe about the contrast in these images. These are all images of human beings. And I'd like us together as a team, united as sisters and brothers of our human family, to regard the images you're about to see with an honoring of the humanity in all of these human beings. And notice what you observe about the images. Now, I'm going to tell you in general what they are photographs of, because as shocking as it is, sometimes when I share these, people make assumptions that aren't true, and we'll explore what that means when we come back from your viewing. So we're going to start with an image of women rock stars. One of the ways around here that we like to honor the humanity of things, you could do it in your own way, or you could experiment with it our way, is to focus attention on the area around the heart, the chest area. And imagine the breath is flowing in through the heart and out through your heart, breathing a little slower, a little deeper than usual. If it works for you, inviting the inhale and the exhale to be even in length. So if you find it helpful, you can count as you breathe in and count as you breathe out. And allow your heart to connect to the hearts of the human beings in these images. This is a picture of male rock stars. Notice, are there any differences? as you breathe in through the heart and out through the heart. This is a picture of the US gymnastics team. When I first showed these images to a group of students, they thought the girls were swimmers. They didn't know they were both gymnasts. This is also the USA gymnastics teams. What do you notice? This is the women's Olympic volleyball champion next to the men's Olympic volleyball team. What do you notice? And feel free to start putting your observations in the chat. You could also notice how you feel looking at these images. We recently had the Oscars here in California, which celebrates one of the industries we're going to look at today, the acting and entertainment worlds. These are women versus men at the Oscars. What do you notice? Some people are writing in the chat. Women seem a lot more objectified, lack of clothing coverage, very little fabric. I feel the focus on sexualizing the women. Men are clothed more than the women, feel surprised at the contrast. Nancy Bott writes, women are scantily dressed while men are fully clothed. The women are sex objects, says Laura, in those uncomfortable, revealing clothes. So I welcome you to the 68th Commission on the Status of Women. And what we are looking at here in these images is representational of an issue we wanted to tackle as a team relative to this year's priority theme and review theme. The priority theme of this Commission on the Status of Women is accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment. That's going to be a critical word, the empowerment of all women and girls by addressing poverty and strengthening institutions and financing with a gender perspective. Now, these half-naked women are women at the top of their game. The message we're giving little girls is you get to the top of your game nude. Is that the message we want to give women and girl children? Thank you for your patience while I have a little technical moment. The issue that we want to tackle with this theme through the arts and entertainment, actually, and we're going to have a play presented here for you. I'm going to introduce my colleague in a moment who authored and acts in the play. Is that to us, economic empowerment means access to play on the playing field, not become a toy on it. It means having a role in economics and commodity trades, not being the commodity. That's empowerment versus exploitation. And the arts, which was one of the first arenas where women were able to enter the playing field of the economy. 1660. So prior to that, in Greek theater, in the ancient theatrical traditions, women were played by men. Even in operas, there were male castrati, where they castrated men to be able to sing the women's parts. So the entertainment world is one of the first where women were invited on the playing field. But the word actress meant prostitute. And the danger is that empowerment can be a wolf in sheep's clothing, because all too often the economic empowerment of women is the forefront costume or disguise for exploitation. What we want in alignment with this year's theme is true empowerment for women. And as we prepared this panel here at the Fiera Foundation, and I'll just introduce myself. My name is Sheva Carr, and I am the president and founder of the Fiera Foundation with ECOSOC consultative status to the United Nations. Our mission is to take heartbreaking global issues, to break open our hearts, to come together, to create solutions from the power, intelligence, and wisdom of loving hearts. And we partner with many to do that. One of our partners here and our Chief Communications Officer, Cheryl Jeffreyon, as we were preparing this panel for you today, shared alongside other members of our Heart Ambassadors community that it is not only in entertainment and sports that women are exploited under the guise of empowerment in the economy. And Cheryl, I'm wondering if you might unmute and just share your story of being a front runner as a woman inside the well, I'll let you tell your story.
Thank you. Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Cheryl Jeffreyon. My first career was in air traffic control for the United States. So I was I went through the National Academy for Air Traffic, became an air traffic controller in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so I worked all radar, and it was 96++ percent male dominated field, and still is mostly male dominated. So very few women there. And so I made it through the academy, made it into and became a full performance level controller at what was considered the top 10 most difficult and challenging air traffic areas in the entire world. And almost every day I would walk in, and I would walk into my air traffic, and I was working all radar. So I would walk into the center, and I would walk around the corner. And as I came around the corner, somebody would let everybody know that I was walking in. And as it's like a football field of radar scopes. And so what would happen is there's an aisle down the middle, but the air traffic controllers are facing the scopes, so their backs are to the aisle. But as soon as they would hear I was coming, everybody would flip, literally working live traffic, would flip facing the aisle. So when I would walk down, they would all be facing me, and everybody would have a scorecard, and they would be writing it down, and they would hold up a piece of paper that would rate how I, that was fun.
Apparently you're a perfect 10 today, Cheryl. Some fireworks with that.
And so they would give me a score of 1 to 10 on how I looked that day when I was coming into work. And that was as a professional air traffic controller.
So Cheryl, as our Chief Communications Officer for the Fiera Foundation, shared this story with Bella and me as we were putting together this panel. And other members of our Heart Ambassador community had stories from other industries, nurses who are my age, who were told by doctors to move into the light so they could see through their uniform. So we are raising awareness. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Cheryl, and for being a pioneer in entering the playing field in a male-dominated industry. We want to be a stand for women's economic empowerment, not exploitation in the sheep's clothing of empowerment. And so I want to invite us to pause again, just to refocus attention in the heart together. To take a breath to digest the issue that we're raising and how it impacts you personally. And as you breathe in through the heart and out through the heart, have a look at these two lines that have come on your screen. So for our unsighted participants, there is a red herky-jerky mountain peak line and a smooth blue sine curve under that. If you had to pick which one of these lines looks like the stress of exploitation, the red or the blue, and you could put your answer in the chat. Red says Myra. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with Myra. Rude and Andrea are getting in there too. And which one looks like empowerment? If you had to pick, Robin says the blue is empowerment. Does everyone agree? These are actually a picture of heart rhythm patterns. And an institute that we work with has researched the physiology of empowerment. And we'll talk more about this after the play screening. But the capacity from the inside to empower oneself comes with this change in heart rhythm pattern that changes over 1,400 things in our physiology. You're going to see later, including the way the brain works, including how we interact with other people and what we're willing to say yes or no to. I'm curious, as you were breathing through your heart, for those of you that tried that experiment, honoring the humanity of the human beings, did that make you feel inside more like the blue line or the red one? You could just put your answer in the chat. Did breathing through your heart, honoring human beings, Yoshi says it felt more like the blue to do that. So does Jean, Melinda. As you listen to our star guest in a moment and hear her story, and then enter the golf cart, the adventure cart with her into the reality of a different character she's about to play for us, I invite you to do two things. One, notice what's happening inside you in listening to Bella's story and Tilly's story. If you get triggered as we're going to explore how it unfolds that women become exploited under the guise of being empowered. If you witness or observe things that trigger you and you feel the stress of the red line, give yourself the pause to come back to your heart. You could even pause this. We'll tell you what time we'll resume if you need to step away. If you watch the whole thing and listen to Bella's story, pay attention to where you see the characters in the story, in Bella's own life and in Tilly's life. Going into incoherence, the red line, and maybe even going into coherence at certain places. And watch how those two worlds of incoherence internally and coherence unfold in you and in the stories you're witnessing. Is the exercise you're about to do clear? Give me a thumbs up if it's clear, or write clear in the chat. We got it. I'm seeing some thumbs up. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will respond there, because without further ado, I would like to introduce my incredibly esteemed colleague and member of our Heart Ambassadors program, Bella Merlin.
Thank you so much, Sheva. And thank you to everybody for being here today to go on this interesting and provocative discussion about how we do present women and young females. And actually, as we'll begin to unfurl many other identifying human bodies. So as we were preparing for this presentation, Sheva suggested to me that as the writer of the play that we're going to show shortly, Tilly Nobody, it might be useful if I gave you some context about its creation in light of this United Nations Commission on the Status of Women's remit this year to address women's poverty and to advocate for their empowerment. To which end, I invite you to flash back 30 years. I'm a 25-year-old actress. I'm piecing together a living by doing some regional theatre and some bits of television. And I'm also supplementing my somewhat meager income by singing European torch songs in London wine bars. So think Edith Piaf, Marlene Dietrich. I'm doing that sort of thing. And after one of these performances one night, an older gentleman comes up to me and says, "You remind me of Frank Wedekind's Lulu." Now, Frank Wedekind was an icon of German theater in the 1900s. And in addition to authoring the original Spring Awakening, which you may now know as the famous American musical, he wrote two plays about a character called Lulu. And Lulu is this kind of mythical creature who morphs herself to become all things to all people. And at the end of the narrative, she dies at the hands of the serial killer, Jack the Ripper. Wedekind wrote two Lulu plays, one called Earth Spirit and one called Pandora's Box, and they're often referred to as Wedekind's sex tragedies. This older gentleman in my life, who I'll call Jay, also turned out to be a playwright, and he was just on the brink of selling a play to the West End. And I can't deny this was incredibly intriguing to a young actress piecing together her living in London. And to cut a long story short, we became a couple. And over the course of the next 3.5 years, he wrote plays for me, which became increasingly erotic and sexualizing. And in fact, one of these was indeed a version of Lulu, which we staged in London. And while I was doing my research for this role, I came across the autobiography of Frank Wedekind's wife, Tilly. And the autobiography was called Lulu, the Role of My Life, and it was in German. Over the course of the next 10 years, I slowly translated Tilly's autobiography into English, thinking that I was going to discover somehow Lulu was the role of Tilly's life because it made her incredibly famous and incredibly successful. Hold that thought. My time with Jay was fueled, sadly, by his alcohol addiction, and the situation became increasingly abusive, psychologically and physically, not to mention financially impoverished. We reached the point where producers and directors no longer wanted to work with him. And furthermore, they no longer wanted to work with me. Our debts mounted, bailiff's notices appeared on the door of our apartment. And I remember on one occasion sliding my hand down the side of the sofa to see if I could find any small change down beneath the cushions to pay my bus fare to get to the temporary job that I was trying to hold down in an attempt to keep our heads above water. The home environment felt extremely unsafe, and I felt wholly disempowered. I became emotionally deadened and mentally depressed. Let's fast forward 10 years, and I'm now 35. Jay and I have long since split up after a particularly violent incident, which we both, thanks to our better angels, survived, and with the profound thanks to my incredible parents who helped me escape the whole situation and rechart my life's course. And I know they're in the midst tonight, and I'm aware that I'm sharing some things they may not fully have known, though perhaps they intuited. And even though I'm 10 years on from having been with Jay, Tilly's story still gripped me. And at last, after 10 years, I finished translating her 300-page autobiography. And in doing so, I discovered that Lulu was the role in Tilly's life in the sense that Frank turned Tilly into Lulu, increasingly commodifying her and sexualizing her in much the way that I had experienced. Long after Frank had died, and after suffering a series of personal breakdowns, Tilly was advised by her doctor to write down her life story as a kind of therapeutic healing. Thus, in her mid-80s, she regained her health and her personal power through the writing of her autobiography. After I'd finished translating this autobiography, I was actually commissioned to write a chapter on Tilly for a book called Women, Performance, and Autobiography. But even though I'd written the chapter, I still couldn't shake her story. So let's now fast forward another 10 years. I'm now 45. And I collaborate with my now husband and actor-director, Miles Anderson, on a play incarnating Tilly's life story, and we called it Tilly Nobody. And that was in reference to the fact that for a while, Tilly called herself Tilly Niemann, which sounds a little like the German Niemand, which means nobody, after she had lost her virginity out of wedlock and her brother was extremely ashamed of her, and she now felt she should be a nobody. So that's how we came to the name. Miles and I had the aesthetic aim of finding the hope and the empowerment in what had been a challenging start for a young actress in Europe in the 1900s. And in my 40s, I performed the play 10 times, and then I packed Tilly back into her own Pandora's box. Now fast forward another 10 years, I'm now 55, and I'm invited to remount Tilly Nobody at the Massachusetts-based theatre company, Shakespeare & Company. And as I re-encountered Tilly's story post-Me Too, and in an older body, I find this new connection to the ways in which Frank had commodified Tilly. And at one point in their marriage, he actually takes all the roles from her that he'd written for her, saying that she's now way too depressed to ever be on the stage. And thus he robs her of her financial income and her vocational identity. However, as I was revisiting Tilly, now in my 40s, I became increasingly aware of her complicity in her commodification. And to be honest, as we were preparing this presentation today, I unexpectedly found myself feeling profoundly sad for the 25-year-old self that I had been, and just how much I had sold myself in so many ways. And I confess, I felt a deep shame about my own complicity in believing that sexuality was a tool in my acting kit, only to find myself too poor to pay the rent or even to do our weekly laundry at the laundromat. Yet Tilly's autobiography, Lulu, the Role of My Life, ends in great hope. And her final chapter is called My Most Beautiful 80th Year. And her closing line is, I had the great desire to play in the theatre again. And so, in light of the quick coherence tool that Sheva has just explored with us to find our own inner empowerment, I invite us all to go back into the theatre. But before we do, I'm just going to do something incredibly logistic and technical. I'm actually going to put into the chat the Zoom, the YouTube link for the play, because we're going to show it through Zoom and us all being together in the room, but I am aware that sometimes the interconnectivity can drop. So if by any chance you're not able to watch it smoothly through the Zoom connection together, hop onto that Zoom link, the YouTube link there, and we will all meet back together here in 65 minutes. Anything else I should add, Sheva, before we dive into this?
So the only thing I'm going to add is I've just put the heart-focused breathing technique in the chat in case you want to bring that up on the side of your screen as a reminder to track what's happening inside you and also what you witness in the characters, and to come back to your breathing as needed. And so we will resume in this room if you need to get up and move around or watch on your own time. We'll be back here in exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes. So 10 minutes after the top of whatever your hour will be. And with that, you can imagine the lights are dimming and the curtain is pulling back.
Excuse me, please, Mr. Pharmacist. These supplement pills? I think my cat may have swallowed one. What should I do? Half a pill? Half a pill would kill a man. Oh, danke. Danke schön. My name is Tilly Wedekind. I have a bottle of poison. What you are about to see is real. The Deutsche Kaiser Hotel. A room, please. A single. Just for one night. The name's Wedekind. Frau Wedekind. Nein. It's niemand. Nobody. Frau. Nobody. Gute Nacht, my little girls. Cadidia. Pamela. Gute Nacht, Frank Wedekind. Didn't you always tell me easy living people go easily to their deaths? But I don't go easily. I leave with a broken heart. My sister, she retired one afternoon as we took tea in the adjoining room. Then she let out a scream that froze her blood to ice. She'd cut her throat and gutted out her life. She suffered unrequited love. Now you see there her bloodstain on the carpet by the chair. What makes her life so cheap? What makes her tears so tidal? Drowning us so deep in thoughts of suicide. All confidence is lost, yet everybody hides their sorrow at our family suicide. My mother, she was sewing father's shirt. when memories of my sister seized her heart. She drew the cotton from the needle, then you see she swallowed it and followed it with 3. The pain the needles caused, my mother tried to hide, till they lodged within her kidneys, and she died. What makes her life so cheap? What makes her tears so tidal? Drowning us so deep in thoughts of suicide. All confidence is lost, yet everybody hides their sorrow at suicide. Tilly Neves? Tilly Wedekind? Tilly Nobody? Lulu, of course. That's where all the trouble started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the zoo, where man and beast look claw and jaw, and woman does too. It's the first night of Frank Wedekind's play, Pandora's Box, and I'm playing the leading role of Lulu. I'm only 18, but I've been acting for years. It's the last act, and I'm waiting in the wings with Herr Frank Wedekind himself. He's not only the author of the piece, he's also a very famous actor. There he is, this wonderful man, yet not handsome, quite thick-set, like a small mountain. And he's shaking. The actor playing Jack the Ripper has got stage fright. So I kiss him backstage. And we make our entrance. Night after night I see in my dreams the man for whom I was created and who was created for me. Was that you, Frank Wedekind? Was I created for you? Or did you create me? Is that what happened tonight at Emil Holitzer's? We're at the house of the famous artist, Emil Holitzer. He's painting a portrait of me in a Pierrot costume. It's the main prop in both of Frank's Lulu plays, Pandora's Box and Earth Spirit. In Act 1 of Earth Spirit, the artist Schwarz is painting Lulu as a Pierrot. But during the sitting, Schwarz takes his chances. What you trying to do? You can't catch me, not in this Pierrot costume. All the kingdoms of the world lie there at my feet. Mine, there's a deep ditch. Don't fall in. How do I feel? Like I've fallen in a river. Which is colder, the river or my heart? That's the play. Tonight at Emil Holitzer's, Frank Wedekind is also there. After dinner, I go up to the studio to put on my Pierrot costume, and suddenly in bursts Herr Wedekind, and he takes his chances. What you trying to do? You can't catch me, not in this Pierrot costume. Mind, there's a deep ditch. Don't fall in. How do I feel? Like I've fallen in a river. No, I'm not going to kiss you. You smell of tobacco. Suddenly Herr Wedekind stops in his tracks. But this is the first act of Earth Spirit, he cries. Why do you write such stupid plays, I reply. Why did I say that? If Frank's plays are stupid, then I must be stupid because I am Frank's plays. No, Frank Frank's plays are my life, but did I become Lulu, or was Lulu already me? Maybe it's both. Maybe that's why I excel as Lulu. Whoa! Fräulein Neves presents Lulu with a playful, teasing ease. She's naive in her depravity, bewitching little tease. She's a gorgeous little animal, captivates and glitters, unreserved recognition for such gorgeous little titties. But as for Herr Wedekind, yes, as for Herr Wedekind, yes. As for Herr Wedekind, he writes me a letter. Dear Fräulein Neves, I congratulate you on your success as Lulu. I no longer have the inclination for us to play together. I can take no competition with me. I understand. I'm very logical. After all, I'm an unknown actress and he's a national icon. So, I go back to Frankfurt, and Frank works on his play, Hidala. But it's not enough. I want to climb that small mountain. Dear Herr Wedekind, too formal. Dearest Frank, too intimate. Dear Herr Wedekind, it is not nice that you are not taking care of me. I found you very impressive. My director said that your director might work with me. It is not easy for me to write personally to your director, so I write to you instead. Did I write Frank into my life, or did he write me into his? Who knows, but abracadabra! October 18th, Tilly Neves arrives in Berlin to star in Frank Wedekind's Hidala. October 19th, Tilly and Frank go to dinner together. She goes back to his place. October 28th, Tilly now Wedekind's mistress. November 23rd, Tilly and Frank pose nude for a photographer. December 10th, Tilly and Frank have menage à trois with actress Ida Orla. Tilly lets Frank beat her with a riding crop. Is this the right chord, Frank? You're the master, you command. Just one slap from your manly hand. Blood comes rushing through my bloodless cheek. Hit me, hurt me, make me weak. It's here inside me, fuel the fire. Raging devil called desire. Whatever he wanted, I gave him pleasure. For that was the bond that would bind us together. I have to make a choice about you, to form you in art or to love you. You're a very talented man, Mr. Wedekind. Surely you can do both. At the end of the evening, Frank took Ida home. After you left, I felt dead. Completely empty. That's not possible. He doesn't believe in your talent. He doesn't believe you're capable of becoming an actress. Pah! Women are actresses by nature, because no woman can keep a man happy by being sincere. But do I really want to be an actress? Do I really want to be famous? I have no idea what kind of courage I will need. Frank, these are not my words. They're yours from your play, music. They sound like my words, but they're not. Yes! I'm on fire! love with my own destiny. We're at a theatrical event in honor of our great poet, Heinrich Heine. Frank's written a prologue. He's performing it himself. It's about me. He's written a dedication to me. I sit in the stalls and I feel elated. After the performance, we all go out for champagne. Yes, champagne. Richard Weinheppert, the famous composer. Delighted. I've heard so much about you. Oh, I'm not flirting, Frank. I'm just being polite. What's the matter, Frank? Yes, of course I like the dedication. Thank you. I said thank you. Oh, stop it, Frank. If you carry on like this, you're so cruel. No, Frank, stop it. If you carry on, I will do something. I don't know what. Maybe this. You see, that's how much your insults hurt me. Good, fine. Let's go home. I'm ready. What did you say, Richard? Watch out, she'll kill herself. Where are we going? Oh, I don't want to go back to my lodgings. Let's go to your lodgings. There, you see? Your big, plump bed. Where are you going, Frank? Don't leave me. He'll come back in a minute. He'll come back in a minute. Frank? Don't tell me you've gone to a bar for a glass of beer. How can you do that? How can you torment me so? Oh, snow falling from heaven. Suddenly Frank returns. He sees the feathers everywhere and he bursts into a fury. He grabs some of my photographs from his sideboard, smashes the glass, and stamps on my face. No! Crash! The oil lamp! My photographs! Fire! Fire! I seized a moment and ran out of his apartment. I'm half naked, but I can't bear it any longer. I run out of the building, across the street, and down the stone steps to the river Spree. I leap straight in. Ah! Ah! Which is colder, the river or his heart? Help! Help! Arms stretched towards me. It's the boatman who hauls me out of the freezing water as Frank runs down the stone steps. They wrap me up in Frank's coat, and they carry me up to his lodgings. Frank kneels by the bedside and weeps the whole night through. Don't weep, Frank. Don't weep. I have a massive burn on my upper arm where the hot glass cylinder of the oil lamp must have stuck to me, and I didn't even notice. It's a wonder I didn't burn myself to a cinder. The next morning, Frank sits on the bed and he says, "Will you marry me?" Say the right thing, Tilly. Say the right thing. Yes. And thus we are engaged. A dream. Or is it a nightmare? Should I marry him? Shouldn't I marry him? Is this marriage a huge threat to my precious independence? After all, he's 22 years older than me, and I'm like wax in his hands. But if I don't marry Frank, who am I, Tilly who? And if I do marry Frank, Frau Frank Wedekind, wife of the famous author? Should I open this Pandora's box? I love, I honor, I obey. I obey. I obey. Till death us do part. And now for the execution. Our wedding feast. A picnic at Munich Zoo. The music. The snarling and cackling of wild animals. A honeymoon, a trip to Nuremberg. Well, I suppose you could call it a honeymoon. Its real purpose was our guest performance in Frank's new play, Death and the Devil. Marry me, and know for once in your life the superhuman sacrifice of woman's love is capable of. All I want of my marriage is to lie at your feet and to listen to you. Nuremberg already. What time is it? 4 o'clock in the morning. We take a carriage straight to our hotel, where we're greeted by the night porter. Have I the kind and daughter, is it? Already our marriage is not going well. We go into our room, Frank goes inside. Out in the corridor, I bump into a man. Oh, sir, excuse me. Well, I don't think his behavior is that surprising. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm young, alone. Besides, I think he's a little bit tipsy. Frank, you'll never guess what happened just now. What do you want me to do? Box the man's ears? Challenge him to a duel? Beat him up or what? I had unwittingly painted the devil on the wall. The devil of jealousy and the death of our marriage. Is this the right fret, Frank? For the first years of our marriage, you would lord me to the skies. Quite the most terrific creature with the most alluring eyes. But as fast as you could raise me, and as high as you could raise me, you would throw me to the depths of the abyss, with the tenderness and softness of a kiss. When I glimpsed the truest colors of your heart, there was an overflowing loving at the start. But you thought that if you gave me even half a chance, I would lead you on a merry, daring dance. So you train me like a tiger with your most unyielding sticks. You shouldn't fear me, you should love me, you would say. And I told you my activities and wrote on little cards every movement I was making, every moment of the day, because I honor you and cherish and obey. Train a wife properly and she'll support her husband twice as easily as he can support her. As long as he handles the intellectual side and defends the moral fiber of the family. Even at the Torgestube with your poets and your artists, I can barely raise my eye before the accusations fly. I feel we're sitting on a powder keg, and all that's left's for me to beg forgiveness for the things I didn't do, and to offer my apologies for only loving you. If I cannot idolize my wife, then let her go and take her own life. Really, Frank? Is that what you want? Or are you just quoting from your play, Castle Wedderstein? Oh, you know that I want what you want. My life is your life. I want so much to make your life peaceful, your home beautiful. I shall try to be an ideal wife for you. I shall even put rubber on the heels of my boots so you don't hear me walking around the apartment. See? Adele! Shush, Adele! We mustn't wake Herr Wedekind. You know how late he sleeps, and you know how easily he's disturbed. No, he's not in good humor at the moment. Oh, I don't know. I think he's unhappy that I'm at rehearsals every day. Does he not understand I'm still in a 5-year contract? Perhaps once an ideal husband opens, he'll be far happier. Yes, Adele, I do get to see Harry Walden every day. I know he's much adored, but he's also a very fine actor. Yes, that's right. I play the girl he falls in love with. No, I'm sure Herr Wedekind isn't happy about that either, but it's my job, Adele. Herr Wedekind understands I'm an actress. Sometimes we have to act falling in love with other men. Yes, of course it's much easier when the man is as charming as Harry Walden. No, Frank, please don't leave me. Say the right thing, Tilly, say the right thing. I'll break my contract. I'll pull out of an ideal husband. Oh, so what if it's a huge success? So what if it could change my whole career? It doesn't matter. We're only just married. Besides, we're having a baby, Frank. Yes, a baby. Let's just draw a veil over the whole proceedings. My darling Frank, I love you very much. Frank is my life. Frank is my voice. I love him very much. There is no point in my helping other playwrights to become successful. It is more important for both of us that Frank's plays are successful. I understand that. I'm very logical. Everything that I have gained independently as an artist, everything that I have gained independently as an artist, everything I have gained independently as an artist is preferably forgotten. I have become a person only through Frank. Besides, you're a very erotic man, Frank Wedekind. Very handsome, very charming. And you know so well how to create appealing situations. How do you know, Frank Wedekind? How do you know? Is it your lifelong devotion to the selfless worship of sensual pleasure? You affect me very strongly, Frank Wedekind. Very strongly indeed. And in return, I put on boots and costumes, and I know what happens. Tilly's high boots don't let you sleep, do they, Frank Wedekind? My red boots and my buckskin boots. And then, when I dance for you, and I dance, 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 I'm sorry. It's not your fault you don't give me satisfaction. I just can't seem to reach the reduction. Oh, it's not you. I find you very attractive. The thing is, acting for me has always had a lot to do with erotic stimulation. Well, you know that. It is for you, too. And when I find an actor attractive, scenes on the stage inevitably become more intense. Pah! The free love market, where the tigress celebrates her triumph. Frank, things only happen on the stage. Every time I've been unfaithful, he's found me twice as beautiful. No, stop it, Frank. These are not my words. They're yours from your play, Castle Wetterstein. Things only happen on the stage, in front of an audience. The first time I broke my marriage vows, that was the saddest. Oh, stop it, Frank. These are not my words. Behind the scenes, everything is gone. What am I supposed to do? You write these parts for me. And then when night after night you leave me alone till the early morning hours, I know where you go, Frank. I smell their perfume. Women for you are either holy or whores. Holy or whores. And which am I, Frank? Holy? Whore? Or clown? As Frank quoted the words of Clara for me in his play Music, my whole life is a comedy. This is how it really is in hell. Oh, look, Frank. It's Lulu. What you trying to do? You can't catch me, not in this Pierrot costume. All the kingdoms of the world lie there at my feet. Mine, there's a deep ditch. I'm falling. Falling. How do I feel? I'm falling. What do I say next, Frank? Frank? Please don't silence me. Frank? Please don't leave me. He's gone again. He's gone. Say the right thing, Tilly. Say the right thing. My darling Frank, I am powerless against my own self-loathing. Please come back to Munich and help me to figure out who I am. No reply. There is nothing that I want to write. I have written to you in my utmost despair everything that torments me, and you write, there is nothing that I want to write. There is so much that I want to tell you, to prove my true love, but how do I know how you will interpret it? I regret I wasn't drowned when I jumped into the river. I am taunted as a cuckold. People make a mockery of me because of your previous love affairs. Things only happened on the stage, Frank. In plays you wrote for me and cast me in. If you don't understand this, Tilly, it makes no sense my coming back to Munich. With best regards, F.W. No telegram, please. Back and forth like a madwoman in my room. I wrote a letter of 6 pages, which I don't dare send for fear of being misunderstood. Say the right thing, Tilly, say the right thing. Oh, I will write to you of your 2 little girls, your children, whom you adore. And they adore you too, Frank. I may not leave this apartment for a while. Who knows if I can even leave this bed? I'm afraid of having a breakdown caused by these experiences. Have you tried dancing? telegrams, 22 letters, 6 postcards, 6 telegrams, 22 letters, 6 postcards. Must I be dead to prove that you mean all to me? Tilly Nevers, Tilly Vedekint, Tilly Nobody? Whoever you want, Frank, whoever you want, the stone of wisdom, Frank's one-act play, a fantasy bird, Frank's fantasy. 4 different parts I play, 3 of them boys. In all of them, I show my legs. It always causes a stir, doesn't it, Frank? People are used to it in the circus, but not in the theater. You love the circus, don't you, Frank? And you love making me show my legs. The 4th part, a demon creature, La Maya, nightmare. I wear this short little skirt that sticks out like a bell. And I balance on a ball which rolls across the stage. Because it's very difficult. I train every day under Frank's strict control. Is this the right key, Frank? So you train me like a tiger with your most unyielding sticks, and I split my bones and muscles till I exercise the splits. I take singing, I take dancing, and I study all your balance. You measure me and note down what I weigh. I'm the ideal of a woman that you bolted from your clay. You control my mind and body every day. And you dress me up in costumes and you tell me what to say. And I put our girls in children's homes whenever we're away. Because I honor you and cherish and obey. Woo! But I know it's far more advantageous to be Mrs. Tilly Frank Vedekint than Miss Tilly Nevers, a middle-aged actress in a mediocre theater. And so we go on our endless guest tours, and my world rolls obediently beneath Frank's feet. Berlin, Dresden, Graz. Frank gets bad notices, I get good notices. Hello, girls. Goodbye, girls. Frankfurt, Leipzig, Köln. Frank gets bad notices, I get weak notices. Hello, girls. Goodbye, girls. Stuttgart, Zurich, Prague. Frank gets bad notices, I get bad notices. Stop it! Stop it! Why do you condemn us as actors? Frank had taught me about diction and articulation and a lot of other skills, and I found that I became cramped and stilted and unnatural, and I found that I So sorry, everybody. I have no idea what I said next. Let me talk about diction, articulation, and all those again. Line? Line? Stage management? Anybody? Somebody just tell me what to say. Oh. actor and a character and a void. The black void. All my authentic talents which used to bring me success, are blocked, censored, censored, censored. Censorship. Frank's one-act play, written especially for me. A Pandora's box of a very different kind. My whole life dragged up, spewed out. My mother's melancholia, my father's infidelities, my own desire to become an actress, my leap into the river spree, my lack of sexual fulfillment, even the menage a trois with Ida Orloff, the intimacy that he veiled from me in private, he displayed unashamedly for the public. Yes, everything was displayed, including my body, far more of my legs than ever before. Nothing at all was censored. Buridan, darling, would you like me to ride around the room on your walking globe? Does that not entertain you anymore? Am I worth nothing to you without an adoring audience? Oh, Khadija, how you humiliate yourself to endure living with me. I would like doing it if I thought that I could be useful to you, but the more I change myself in accord with all your wishes, the less I mean to you. Sometimes you don't even see me when I'm sitting right in front of you. Khadija, let me explain. In Palermo, I saw a dancer who danced on an elastic wire. Beneath her feet and thighs were fastened glinting knives, and her eyes were flashing with desire. As she danced across the swinging cable, the young girl took off all her clothes. Then she flipped 3 somersaults high in the air, and then she landed gently, smiling in innocent repose. And I see you, as you sit there. I see your breast, your legs, your lips, your hips, your hair. I see you, you're as alive as the girl who walked the tightrope above the glinting knives. And this was the character that our husband had created for us? This cracked reflection of our distorted self? And we were willing to play this creature. We're an actress. It's our survival. After all, without Frank Wedekind, who are we? Without Frank's words, we had nothing to say. Try and say the right thing, Tilly. Try and say the right thing. Darling. Husband. Frank. Have we nothing to say to each other unless it's your carefully crafted dialogue? And yet, strangely, it's through Frank's use of our words that we finally free ourselves. On stage as Khadija in censorship, we're no longer falling. We're flying. Flying from a dark cage towards the light. And every night there's thunderous applause. And we're lauded by the critics like never before. We're sorry you don't come out so well, Frank. After my death, you will have a wonderful life, so much money and my wonderful reputation. No, Frank, that is not true. After your death, the girls and I will be sad. Do you hear me? Sad! I'm sorry, darling. Forgive me. You should perhaps know that Frank has been seriously ill for quite some years. It's his appendix wound. It won't heal. What with the war and the rationing, we can't always get what we need. Very few people know of his illness, not even our two little girls. Several times he's been close to death, but each time he works relentlessly. We must all forgive him. He's a great man, a true artist. What's that, Frank? You want to go away? Where? To Bavaria, what do you mean? Say the right thing, Timmy. Say the right thing. I understand. I'm very logical. He wants to go away alone. He's talking about divorce. What have I done to deserve this? What have I done? Oh God, oh God, oh God, give me the strength to be just a little bit happy. Whip me. That's what I need. Whip me and make it stop. Make the fire in my head stop. You see, Frank, those are your words from your plays. But now they're mine. You made them mine. Where do your words end and my own thoughts begin? Who am I, Frank? Who is Tilly Wedekind?
Tilly's too depressed. I have given her parts to another actress.
What?
I have given your parts to another actress.
What?
I have given your parts.
Can't do that. Those are my words. My lives. What will I say without my parts? This is the greatest hurt you could ever inflict on me, Frank Wedekind. You have broken our contract. You have betrayed me entirely. Say the right thing, Tilly. Say the right thing. Shut up, Tilly. This is the right thing. I have put my life, my talent, my whole career entirely at your disposal. Not to mention my body. Was all of it for nothing? Was my sacrifice for nothing? You have given my parts to another actress because Tilly is too depressed. Isn't any water? A great injustice has been done to me. I have been left out in the cold. So quiet without him. So peaceful. What do you think about what he's done to us? Me too. No, already. Frank will return, and all our troubles will start all over again. That I can no longer endure. I would rather die. I would rather die. supplement pills. The ones I dissolve in water to bathe his appendix wound. Where are they? Oh, here. Poison. See? Stop! The Deutsche Kaiser Hotel, where this plane started. What? I don't know. I was days. Finally, my sister. An ambulance to the psychiatric hospital. A madhouse. The room so small, the windows barred, the door no keyhole. No, don't take my wedding ring. Of course I won't swallow it. I'm not mad. Please, Frank, stop pacing. So giddy, so giddy, so giddy. Please, Frank, please, don't come here anymore. Finally, my sister again. Another ambulance, this time to the sanatorium. The pain, the thirst, unquenchable. My skin, my skin. No, don't bathe me. My skin. Finally, nature helps herself. Out through my skin comes the poison. Every day I'm rubbed with oils, and the room is covered in skin, like snow. The skin on my hands is as hard as parchment. One day, I pull it off like a pair of gloves. The lines of my life are mapped upon it. New skin beneath, as tender as a babe's. New skin on my hands, new life in my soul. No, Frank, I cannot come back to you. I don't want you near me right now. I know it's been 2 weeks, but I still don't want to see you. I know it's been 4 weeks, but now it's my turn to ask for a divorce. I have my choices now, my future, my career. Dear Herr Director Geheimstadt, I would very much like an engagement at your theater. I used to play Juliet and Viola and Ophelia. You see, Frank, I don't need your words anymore. I have Shakespeare and Schiller and Goethe. One day, I may even have words of my own. Each day, I grow stronger. And each day, I realize it's not entirely Frank's fault. My depression, it's not entirely Frank's fault. My sister was depressed. She cut her throat and gutted out her life. My mother was depressed. She swallowed it and followed it with 3. There is much that is great about Frank Wedekind. He's a true artist and a very flawed man. And he himself was in great pain. We cannot get divorced, Frank. As you yourself wrote in Earth Spirit, how can you get divorced when you've grown so much a part of one another that half of your own self would go too? Time! That's all I need. Time. And time indeed was passing. As Frank wrote, my beloved Tilly, I am living in the same apartment in which I wrote Spring Awakening 20 years ago. The circle is closed. I will die this year. And despite all the trouble, despite all the pain, Tilly and Frank make love again. Our bodies are aching. Our hearts are entranced. Frank writes in his diary, tonight Tilly danced. After days and nights of you not making love to me, yet putting all our privacy on show, as you take your final breath and as you stumble to your death, my darling, somehow we can't let each other go. Though the passion and the pain no longer lure me to the pleasures and the promises of night, still the way you used to taunt me seems to hunt me down and haunt me with the ghosts of some forgotten dark delight. Tilly dances, and as she dances, she casts off all the veils of silence and despair. As Tilly dances, she takes her chances on a love that maybe was or wasn't there. Though the softness of our skin has turned to paper, and the glitter of our eyes has lost its shine, still the brushing of your lips against the curving of my hips, just for a moment, seems to kindle the divine. The beating of your heart is like an echo, and your rhythm like the oceans on the shores, and your breath against my skin holds the confessions of the sins of all those nights and all those arms of all those whores. Tilly dances, and as she dances, she casts off all the veils of silence and despair. As Tilly dances, she takes her chances on a love that maybe wasn't even there. Now I stand before you naked, like Salome before Herod, in a seven-veiled, voluptuated trance. I forgive you now, my darling, just hold back the break of morning. Let me dance, oh let me dance, oh let me dance, oh let me dance, oh let me dance. Please let me dance, my darling, dance. That night, I slept in our bed, in our apartment. Oh, Frank, you're dressed already. So early? The Nymphenburg? Isn't that where your doctor is? You're going into hospital again? I had no idea. Maybe I could come with you. I visited Frank almost every day. Sometimes I brought the children. His first operation went very well. And so I brought him flowers. Red, his favorite color. A few days later, they performed a second operation. Didn't go so well. And during the night, Frank came down with a fever.
Tilly! Tilly!
The next morning, they telephoned me. Complications, they said.
Tilly! Tilly!
In flying haste, I got myself together.
Tilly! Tilly!
I'm coming, Frank! I'm coming! Even outside the hospital and down the corridor, I could hear him calling.
Tilly! Tilly!
Frank! 3 or 4 doctors came in for a consultation and I was sent outside. Then one of the doctors came outside to meet me. There is no longer any hope, he said. Frank. And I left us alone. Then they brought us champagne, just like in Earth Spirit when Dr. Schön asks Lulu for champagne just after she's fatally shot him. Frank asked me to feed him the champagne from my mouth. He breathed heavily. I held his hand. Oh, you're here, my darling Tilly. My darling Tilly. Suddenly, he started to breathe gaspingly. And then I was breathing gaspingly too. Then he didn't breathe anymore. Frank, with his gaze upon me, he had died. Tilly Nevers, Tilly Redican, Tilly Neiman, Tilly Nevers, Tilly Redican, Tilly Neiman, we don't know Redican, Tilly nobody. Say the right thing, Tilly. Say the right thing. Tilly's somebody. Oh. Tilly, somebody. I was over 80 years old when I wrote my memoirs. Lulu, the role of my life. Frank had been dead for nearly 50 years, but after several breakdowns, my young doctor suggested I write my story. Mood-lifting medicine, they called my treatment. Lulu, the role of my life. My own words, my own voice. Who was Lulu? Who was Tilly? An earth spirit, a spirit of nature, Pandora's box, the bringer of disaster. Maybe it's time to close the box, draw a veil over all that has passed, and leave inside a little ray of hope. Part 1, Tilly Neves. I was born in April in 1886. I was wrapped in a baby's pillow, and on my little head I wore a veil. Since then, I have always loved veils.
Welcome. You're getting lots of bravos in the chat, Bella. We want to give you a moment to be with what you just saw and heard and witnessed and experienced. I invite you to focus your attention in the area around the heart, the chest area. Imagining the breath is flowing in through the heart and out through the heart. Tilly's empowerment and being somebody didn't come from performing on a stage or being hired and engaged in the economics of entertainment. It came finally when, in her own words, she said, "Someday I might have words of my own." The medicine was writing. And I want to give you all a moment in digestion of what you've witnessed to write down whatever is here for you, for yourself. What did you experience? And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes in silence to write. If you are looking for some writing prompts, Did you notice when the characters, by the way, a reminder, these were real human beings? Could you stay connected to honoring them as human? Not just characters. Did you witness when they were incoherent or coherent? Did you travel with them into incoherence or coherence? And as happened for our Herd Ambassador community when we screened this, did this stir any stories of your own from your own life? You might write about all of those things or whatever you feel prompted to write. One of the reasons we loved this piece at the Fura Foundation is because Tilly's story in some ways is everyone's story. As humanity is moving from simply playing out, reenacting enculturated survival mode, roles that have been handed down through generations of intergenerational trauma, to becoming the authors of a new reality that we write ourselves from the intelligence of our inner being and our own heart. So I want to give you a little map of where we're going for the remainder of our time. I'm going to give you a tiny bit of the promised neuroscience in your flyer, with a tool to access that inner wisdom and intelligence. Let's say it like this: your own words, that you might help author a new reality of true empowerment, not just for women, but for all, rather than exploitation. And the science behind that. We'll give you an exercise to find those words in yourself, and then we'll open the lines for you to engage, which is a very unique opportunity for us to have the writer, the actor, and the director of this play here with us. And for those who can stay for the after party, then if you are interested, we'll create some breakouts for you to share with one another the impact of this on you or your own stories. Does that work for everyone? Bella, are you good with this structure in the time we have left?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sheva. I appreciate we only have about 13 minutes or so left of the formal part. So if those who have to leave, thank you deeply for being here.
Yes, I know some of you are going to other UN events. Some of you are going to bed, and I want to let you know all of the remainder of this, except the breakout rooms, will be recorded. And you can write to us at support@heartambassadors.com. I'm putting that in the chat to request the recording. I also want to say that if you would like a complimentary consultation on how to access your own heart's words, to author your own life, we are providing that for those in attendance today, and the link to sign up for that is in the chat. So why are women at the top of their game presented in the nude? You heard it happen to Tilly as early as the early 1900s. She posed for naked pictures back then. Why? I'm going to give you my Peanuts, Lucy's 2-cent neuroscience opinion on this. Remember the heart rhythms we looked at earlier? Well, those heart rhythms change the way the brain works. And so incoherent heart rhythms, which are a function of survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, appease. Could you see that in Tilly's story? Could you see her and Frank going into fight, flight, freeze, appease? That shuts down the higher functions of the brain. Visionary foresight, innovative problem solving, verbal communication, the very things we need to manifest the UN Sustainable Development Goals. When we talk about economics, because people have associated money with their basic needs, shelter, food on the table, survival, we have conflated survival mode with our economies. Sexuality, until it is evolved in a human system, is an expression of survival mode because it is how the species survives through procreation. As women have entered the economy, we've conflated their sexuality and our survival sexually with economics. And we've exploited women's bodies through that conflation. We can change that. This heart rhythm trace literally changes in one heartbeat. With the technique you practiced earlier, we'll do it now, focusing attention on the area around the heart, the chest area. Imagining the breath is flowing in through the heart and out through the heart. Breathing a little slower, a little deeper than usual. It's helpful to create physiological coherence and the shift from one operating system to another, from survival to thriving. When the inhale and the exhale are even in length. If you find it helpful, you can count as you breathe in and count as you breathe out to invite that even inhale, even exhale. As you do that, you are self-regulating over 1,400 things in your physiology, including the part of your brain perceiving life and responding to it. Now I invite you to breathe in through the heart and out through the heart, a feeling of appreciation or compassion for someone or something in your life. as you breathe in through the heart and out through the heart. Perhaps we could all breathe compassion for this exploitation we've witnessed in these art forms we observed today. And from this place of appreciation, let's also breathe appreciation for Bella and her partner, Miles, for the creation of this work. As we breathe in through the heart and out through the heart. And now notice the changes in your body, emotions, and thoughts. And ask your inner intelligence, what we would call your heart intelligence, for its perspective on what you wrote earlier. Is there anything your heart would like you to know or see? And take a moment to write down whatever comes to you. And some people are putting it in the chat. Hannah wrote, "Time to change the narrative." Yes, Hannah, and that is a new story we want to author together. Give me a thumbs up or an emoji if your heart's response was different from your initial reaction in its quality. Was there a different response your heart gave you? I'm just curious. You wrote your initial reaction to the play. I see some people nodding. Jean is nodding. We'll get to hear from those who wish to share in the after party. We believe at the Fira Foundation, and that tool we just did is called the freeze frame technique, slightly modified from the Heart Math Institute. And for those who wish, we will send the technique in worksheet form out with the recording of this if you request it at support@heartambassadors.com. Einstein said we cannot solve the world's problems from the level of thinking that created them. We have to shift from survival imperative to collective thriving to do that. And this simple physiological shift to heart intelligence is the way we do that here. That can empower us to make new choices because we are not passive imbibers or consumers of culture. What we tolerate in our athletes' attire, in our entertainers, creates culture. With the power of the heart, we can become more conscious consumers and therefore curators and creators of our culture. Bella, I want to give you the final word of our official panel presentation, and then we'll have a little after party for those who can stay to share your words and experience and ask questions of Miles and Bella, or Bella and Miles.
Thank you so much, Sheva, and thank you everybody for the attention and the thoughtfulness in the comments. And my parting response really is that I know I have students who are in the midst here, and I thank you for being here. And I'm aware that young people go out into the entertainment industry when they're 21, 22, 23, barely aware of who they are outside of education or family. So this ability to listen to your true self and your own artistry and how to evolve and work forward with that is so important. And I think these tools that you've shared with us, Sheva, and a little bit of them I tease into my acting classes, are incredibly helpful and simple. So thank you. And thanks to everybody for going on the journey with us over these 2 hours. Thank you.
And not even, right? 21, 22. For those who choose to stay, I could share a story of me when I was 9. Exploited in the entertainment industry. Young. But we're all young in our survival mode. It's the infantile brain. And we can all access the power of the heart to evolve not only ourselves, but our culture. So thank you for your participation in the Commission on the Status of Women. And Tara was saying, yes, she's familiar with this. Wonderful comments coming in through the chat. I encourage everyone to read through it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here in Hannah's words to help us rewrite the narrative. And with that, for those who need to get to your next event, we will record the rest. I invite you to find in the lower taskbar, if you scroll to the right, there's a place where it says reactions. And if you click on that, it gives you the option to raise your hand. We'll allow you to ask a question. And I think what I will do is Miles also available for questions as the director? Bella? Is that a yes?
He is. I think he's outside.
He's outside. Well, he just put something in the chat.
Miles, are you available for comment? He's trying to figure out how to unmute himself.
All right. I'm going to also spotlight Miles. And of course, I'm happy to take questions as well. If anyone would like to raise your hand and has a question for the artists or a comment. Here we go. We're small enough that you're also welcome to just simply unmute yourself and share some of these beautiful comments about the impact of this piece of work and incredible art in the chat. You're welcome to unmute and share them with others here. So, while people are sorting out, here we go. There's a question in the chat. How much time did it take you, Miles and Bella, to prepare for this performance?
Thank you, Veronica. And in a way, I'm going to sort of unpack that word prepare, because there's obviously the preparation one does immediately before a performance, and then there's the preparation leading up to this. And as I outlined at in my little spiel, it's taken 30 years to get to where it is now. In terms of the first iteration, Miles, do you want to talk a little bit about the rehearsal process?
Well, I think if you remember, we just threw it about. There was a lot of improvisation. We started with a basic script that Bella had written, really. I mean, I'd occasionally made the odd contribution, but I think it's largely, 95% Bella's writing. And so we were up at Davis, in fact, to UC Davis, and we knew we wanted to do a performance of it. We were great believers in the power of theater and how it can change people's ideas. And I think we really started, it was a period of about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, when we really got down to it and decided what we wanted to do. And we knew, for instance, that I think Frank Badekin had tried to get Tilly to walk on a ball. And so we knew that was, for instance, one element of the piece. And as we progressed through rehearsals, we just found certain moments that we wanted to highlight and other moments that we didn't. And I remember we cut the odd line here and there, but it's very much, the piece is very much as it was written. I don't know if that's your recollection, Bella, it was a long time ago.
Yes, then the only other thing I would add is that we knew that, solo pieces are tricky because you're asking the audience to attend to one voice and one face for an awfully long period of time. So we knew that we needed Frank and Tilly to appear as puppets. And we knew, actually, there's one moment you hear Frank's voice, and that's Miles. So he makes his appearance. And the puppets were an important thing. We structured it so that we knew around about every 7 minutes, there would be a different moment, as Miles would say, a moment of magic of some sort, because we knew to go to the place of depth that Tilly's autobiography takes, we needed levity and surprise and joy. And we also wanted to be a bit mischievous. When I said to Miles that I wanted to write a moment where it was as if I had forgotten my lines, he said, "Why do you want to do that to the audience?" But it was a way of showing that, because Tilly herself suffered stage fright, it was a way of us collectively going on the journey together, collectively breathing through that moment of, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I say next. And for that peeling away of the onion layers to show the vulnerability of somebody standing in front of a group of people and not knowing what they say next. It's a tricky question because Miles and I could talk for hours about it. So we probably should put a pin in it there. But thank you for the question.
Well, I don't know that you need to pin it there, but you're reminding me, Bella, of an experience I had seeing it this time, right in that moment where you forgot your line. And then there's a place where you almost admonish the audience. Why are you so critical of us? And it gave me chills this time because it is so easy for us as consumers of culture to dehumanize that which we are looking at or listening to, rather than, and so it is such a wake-up call. And I loved that nuance of that invitation from you in the writing. And you got a thank you from Veronica for answering the question. Does anyone else have something you'd like to ask or share?
So I'm seeing Yoshi's question in the chat, and I want to share that Yoshi is one of my really wonderful students. So I thank you, Yoshi, for that question. When playing Tilly, did you ever blend some of your own feelings, experiences, and emotions into Tilly, or did you create Tilly as a completely separate being from yourself? How did you train for the ball stunt? We'll get to that in a moment. Was it always a plan to have more of a bare open stage? And if so, how did you guys go about playing with this space? Okay, lots and lots of stuff there. All right. So, and Yoshi, to some extent, may have a little bit of insider info here because of having taken a few of my acting classes. But it's, for me, it's always a blend of what the playwright's given or the screenwriter's given, and they don't necessarily know us at the time they're writing, but also our authenticity, our truth, our inner life. So it's where do those two overlap? And the truth is, I have invested more in Tilly as I've got older, because the paradox is, the more distance I have on my first encounter with Lulu and Tilly's life and Frank's life, the more distance I have, the more I can actually go deeply into it. And the image I always use for acting is, it's a little bit like being a really well-crafted flute. The flute's well made, but it's empty. And the words come into the flute, like the music and the breath come into the flute to create that music. So in some respects, again, it's a contradiction, but to some extent, I try and vacate my feelings in order that the feelings can come through. So that's part one. Part two, Miles, do you want to say anything about the ball stunt?
Well, I remember we knew that Tilly had to walk on the ball, and then it was one afternoon, Bella walked on the ball, and then she'd learned to walk on the ball through my son. My son had done gymnastics at school, and he was able to help her on the ball, how to balance the ball. But when it came to rehearsing it, she then sang a song, the song which she sings on the ball afterwards. And I said, well, why don't you walk on the ball and play the lute at the same time? And she said, well, what do you mean, walk on the ball and play the lute and sing and walk on the ball? And I said, yeah, why not? She said, well, I'm not sure if I can do that. And I said, well, of course you can do that. Just do it. Go on, do it. And the very first time she did it, it worked. And so we kept it in. And then, we're a bit naughty because we wanted to egg the audience on. So we knew that there was a moment when she goes up to the ball and then she says, well, it's very difficult, and it's a great laugh. She does that. And there were moments, as Bella has said before, that we wanted to test the audience. It was like when she forgot her lines, and she then basically makes the audience feel very uncomfortable. And I think that was part of us trying to, realizing that the audience were going to feel uncomfortable anyway about the piece. It's a rather harrowing piece at times, but I think that was all in the mix.
If I could just evolve that a little bit as well, that it's not so much for me. I mean, obviously there's the director's outside perspective, there's the actor writer's inside perspective. It was more play with the audience, and I use that with very definitely, that we are playing together. And when I said to Miles, I want to have this moment where it looks like I've forgotten my lines. And he said, why do you want to do that? And I said, because I want us to have this organic moment together. He said, only if you bring the audience back to safety very quickly. So I knew then in the crafting of that, I would sew in this idea of throw me a line, I'm falling. I'm with the recurring images of falling in the river, jumping in the river. And also I suffered chronic stage fright for about 7 years. And I, in fact, ended up writing a book on it because I needed to understand what was happening in my brain. And the recurring image for people who suffer stage fright, and I noticed that somebody in the chat said, oh, it's Melinda, lovely Melinda, that often stage fright can feel like falling into an abyss. Lots of famous actors such as Olympia Dukakis, Laurence Olivier have said that moment of stage fright is like this black void. So I was playing with recurring images that people who've had stage fright feel, and playing with the audience. And I valued Miles saying, only if we bring the audience back to safety. The other thing I should say about the walking on the ball is there's a paradox in that as well. What Miles's son Max taught me was to move the ball forward, you have to walk backwards. And I love this idea of counterpoint, or to use some of the terminology that Sheva uses in different contexts, the polarity. To go forwards, I need to go backwards. That balancing is kind of pleasurable. It's also terrifying. I get scared every time I do it. But also, I was very aware that there's that delicacy that Miles and I could be mirroring Frank and Tilly, that Frank got Tilly to walk on a ball, and she had a much smaller ball. And I should say, the smaller the ball, the harder it is. And he got her to walk on a small ball with heels on, little character shoe heels. I don't do that. I do it in flat rubber plimsolls. And when we first did it, I had a 3-foot ball. It's now 2 feet. So the smaller the ball, the faster. But it's easier to tour a 2-foot ball than a 3-foot ball. But I was always subtly aware that we were mirroring what Frank got Tilly to do by Miles saying, yeah, walk on the ball. Yeah, walk on the ball and play the lute. Yeah, walk on the ball and play the lute and sing. But it was with pleasure and complicity as actor, director, creative artists. And the final thing is, in your questions, Yoshi, yeah, we initially had a much bigger set. And that's almost why I didn't do much with Tilly for 10 years, was because the set was too big. Then when we had this invitation 2 years ago to take it to the East Coast, that was when we went, okay, let's now get a set that's much more manageable. And actually, it's always thanks to when you've put about the different atmospheres. The atmospheres are created to some extent through the rhythm of what we're doing, and to a large extent through the lighting. And I have to thank Ben Tusher, who is the production manager and the lighting designer at UC Riverside, because in a moment's, he had about a day to do it. He created some beautiful atmospheres. So thanks to that. Thank you for that series of questions, Yoshi. I hope that answers them.
Thank you, Bella and Miles. I want to add one thing, and then we're going to get Steph in, which is when you talk about stage fright and how stage fright leads to forgetting the line. That is the very neurological physiology we've been talking about. That fight, fright, that's the stage fright, freeze, appease is the physiology going into survival mode in a situation that isn't survival based. And it even shuts down the memory centers. And so it's pointing to the fact to me that what I personally took away from Tilly, nobody becoming Tilly somebody. And at some point, Bella, perhaps before we close up shop in the next 15 minutes, you and I can share the evolution of my input to you on taking the upside of the story rather than the downside. That was its own commission on the status of women evolution of the process. Is that we can't economically empower women or empower women and girls just by creating outer contexts of empowerment and opportunities for engagement, without giving them tools to access their inner power, whatever the circumstance. And with that, I am going to replace myself here with Steph.
I'm going to say something.
Amazing.
I'm going to say something. Love the drying moment as an actor who has made a career of drying on stage. And Miles's thing, yes, you have to bring him back. Somehow you've got to find your way back somehow. Anyway, something that we talked about last night, Miles, Bella, about the actor's craft, or the obligation, and why not, given the context, make this about women. You have an obligation to pass your energy to whoever is listening. And if that involves a house of audience that is some distance away, it's the same thing as in a room in context of intelligence, that you have an obligation to fill the space. You have to be heard from the back of the hall. You have to be heard from the back of the intelligence of the person you're talking to. You've got to fill that space with energy. Not, as Miles was talking last night, someone comes on stage to do an audition and goes, no, excuse me. Miles is at the back of the house. You have to be heard. Oh, yes. I understand that. Yes, I understand that. No, it's not enough. One of the extraordinary things, there were so many words in today's, it's magical. It's overwhelming. Bella, any words we have are matchless to what you did with the words you had.
And wrote. She wrote it.
And she
phenomenal. And the lyrics to the song. I mean, it was
That's what I want to talk about. The last thing I want to talk about is I absolutely loathe contemporary popular music because unlike Edith Piaf, who was trained by, I can't remember his name, he kept on saying, I don't understand you. I don't understand you. Do it again. Yeah. You, Bella, are an example, the first example of what an actor has to do, or anybody has to do, is make yourself understood. You were like a bell. I understood every single word.
Yeah.
Not like modern pop. The voice is used as a percussion instrument, not to pass on intelligence. You were so clear. The song was absolutely gorgeous because I heard every single word.
So, Robin, I can't think enough. And the students who might be here may think I've paid you to say all this because I'm forever saying to them, honestly, trust the consonants, trust the.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I really.
I mean, Dr. Tyrone Guthrie, the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, famous British director, would simply stand at the back of the house and say, can't hear, can't hear, can't hear, do it again.
Robin,
it's so fundamental, you idiots. Do your speech properly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm wondering if if in terms of being understood in the whole room, how the whole room might understand something. Sheva, I wonder if this would be a suitable moment for you to share with us how and why, when I showed you the film, you thought this might be something that would be relevant for the UN.
So yes, and first we have a question in the chat from Myra that I want to honor. That one moment where Tilly found peace being by herself. And I don't know if this question is for you, Bella, for you and Miles and me. Maybe you're welcome to unmute, Myra, if you have or we can all respond. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, it's an inquiry that that was what really impacted me, that moment. There was so much peace in that moment.
Nice.
And then she lets it go so fast, which is where I've seen that over and over again. It's a pattern we have. And now observing how the movement of women and them being alone, and if it's going to a direction that might not be it's creating a polarity that might go to a different extreme.
What I'm really hearing, Myra, in your question, and as you put it in the chat, is do we feel that women are now going to have to be in solitude to find peace and happiness? And so I see Miles jumping in. We'll let Miles answer, and Bella and I can throw our 2 cents on the wishing well for this as well.
No, it's a great question, Myra. I think that women must go and are going more to a communion, and it's a communion of women, and it's the power of the collective very much rather than the power of the individual that will overcome this imbalance. But that's my own personal view.
Bella, do you want to get your voice here on that?
It's a great moment that you've picked up on there, Myra. And also I know of your work, so it's all about finding the inner stillness. So thank you, A, for being here, and B, for sharing that. And that was actually a moment that this iteration, so 10 years on from the original, post Me Too, I dared to let that moment sit a bit longer, because I two reasons. Aesthetically, I thought, let's give the audience a moment of peace. They've heard nothing but blah, blah. Okay, let's just sit still for a minute with the big Tilly and the little Tilly, and let's see them together for a moment. And then from that, and this idea of what do you think of what he's done to us? Little Tilly says, whatever little Tilly says, me too. That is all come in the most recent iteration. And it felt as though we needed that moment to collectively just take a breath, to allow that moment a little bit of space. And also then when the soundscape comes in and we realize Frank is coming back. Yeah, hand on heart, when I used to be in the apartment on my own in London and I would hear the key in the door turn, I would have instant panic, sweaty palms, beating heart, thinking, what's coming in the door now? So all of it was aesthetic, it was rhythmic, and it was to hold that moment a little. Thank you.
Bella, to answer this question from my perspective, I'm going to answer it by asking you another question, which is, now when you feel panic, what do you do?
With coherence. I stop. I slow down my breathing. I allow the inhale and the exhale to be equal in length. And I bring to mind something that gives me pleasure, or compassion, or peace, or joy, or a regenerative feeling. And the subtle and curious thing about all this is when I was a little girl and I would go on stage, and if I was going to get anxious, my mom, who is a biologist, would say, take 3 deep breaths. And here's now full disclosure. When I was backstage about to go on as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, I go, okay, that's my 3 breaths, like completely denying the point of actual deep breathing. So yeah, quick coherence, and the idea that it was in the DNA all along and I didn't quite know it is
So I just put a link in the chat to HeartMath, which is the research institute that cultivated the tools and did this neurophysiological scientific research on what the neuroscience we've been talking about. But that's my answer to you, Myra. No, we don't have to be in solitude to find peace and happiness as women or as anyone. We can operationally engage with a new operating system in our relationships. And that is really the hope and inspiration of this work together. And when Bella first brought me the play, do you want to talk about what it was originally called, Bella? And
yes, originally it had a subtitle which I had taken from Tilly's autobiography because I just loved it. It was Tilly Nobody, Catastrophes of Love. And so rightly and wisely, Sheva said, can we ditch putting love and catastrophe in the same thing? And so, yes, we re-rendered it.
Well, now I feel a little bad knowing it was Tilly's words. Here I am, robbing her of her own language, but love is coherence and catastrophes are born of incoherence. So this was not, if Tilly were here and I could bring her into my HeartMath class, I would say, honey, it wasn't the love that was catastrophic. It was your infatuated survival mode, your amygdala and your limbic system, not the love in your heart. And it was the love in your heart that redeemed you. That's not a catastrophe. That is a miracle. And it's a miracle available to each and every one of us. I would love to spend more time, and I actually have a hard stop, and I'm wondering, Bella, Miles, is there anything else you'd like to share? And then perhaps as digestion, we could play the opening song again to allow people the portal of music to come into a relation with this before segueing back into their daily activity. Any last things you two would like to say or share.
Well, thank you very much, Sheva, for getting this on at the UN. I think it's a great, wonderful achievement. And let's hope that many more people will watch it on YouTube now.
Beautiful. Thank you, Miles. Thank you for creating this incredible work of art together, both of you, and Tilly and Frank, that has allowed us this deeper reflection of who we are and who we could be. Bella?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Sheva. Thank you very, very much. I want to truly thank my mum and dad, who I know are here, and it's late at night in the UK, because they attended very delicately around what was clearly a complicated situation. They never interfered. And when the moment came for them to, I'm going to use the word, rescue me, they did. And it's thanks to them we're having this conversation now. So to mum and dad, thank you for being here, and thank you for doing what you did.
And at that invitation, maybe we could take a moment to focus in the heart. Breathe gratitude to all of our rescuers who showed us our own empowerment, and also compassion to the millions of women and girl children who don't have that we might become that for them.
There's a secret remedy hiding underneath the tree, in the seed from which we came together. Women of the world unite, cast aside for centuries, bound in chains of slavery, waiting for the roots to come together. Women of the world unite, for the sake of humanity, unite, in the name of integrity, unite, to retrieve our felicity, unite, and all of our diversity, unite, use your gift with wisdom, unite, for the future of our children, unite, to protect our planet, unite, if you wish to live in peace, unite, with your ancient wisdom, unite, with your natural rhythm, unite, with the light you have hidden, you will elevate your power like a beautiful flower, breathe the love that brings us all together. Women of the world unite. Now the seed begin to sprout. Women of the world we shout. Races and religions come together. Women of the world unite. Stand up for the tree of life. Hug the darkness with our light. We can heal our pain when we're together. Women of the world unite. Calling all our sisters and magnificent brothers, each and every mother and courageous daughter, in the darkest hours, liberate your powers, give a voice to sanity, celebrate humanity, unite with our ancient wisdom, with our natural rhythm, with the life we have given. Elevate your power like a beautiful flower, breathe the love that brings us all together. Women of the world unite. Hey ya, 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 hey ya. With the flowers, with the leaves, with the spiders, the birds and the bees, with the mountains, with the sea, with the valleys and roots of the trees, with our passion, with our wounds, with the sun and the earth